In 2020, I invited you to dislike my Doom Eternal video because I was nitpicking the year's best FPS game over marauder enemies treating you like your big brother did when the parents weren't around, and platforming sections because Hell was hosting the Olympics that year. But for Doom the Dark Ages, keep those thumbs holstered. I'm not apologizing for this, because unlike Bethesda, I respect your time and possess the rare superpower known as realistic expectations. Doom was riding high. Two genre-redefining entries that proved Rip and Tear wasn't just a slogan, it was a Supreme Court decision against tedium. Then Microsoft walked in, sniffed the momentum and said, you know what Doom needs? Halo's identity crisis. But with fewer grappling hooks and more… chainsaw shields, a nearby aide whispered. Brilliant! And then make the chainsaw shield into a grappling hook, and thus a new circle of hell opened. But I wasn't truly concerned until Bethesda dropped a story trailer. A story trailer for a franchise whose entire narrative backbone is demons bad, gun good, ammo better. You don't need plot. Hell, you don't want plot. You need a gun so big it violates Geneva Conventions and your mother's approval. Doom 2016 had the self-awareness to hide its lore and codex entries, the gaming equivalent of serving broccoli with steak. It was there if you wanted it, but the game knew you didn't. Dark Ages, they've deep-fried that broccoli and force-fed it to you while screaming, care about space Vikings! Imagine a society so deep into its midlife crisis that they've run out of motorcycles to tinker with, leaving them with nothing but gothic cathedrals and generic tattoo designs to fight. Doomslayer is here to save them. But honestly, he's a side character in his own game. Just a bomb to be dropped on the head of some unsuspecting demons when he's not standing to the side in every cutscene, or a farming competence by keeping his mouth shut while cliches spill out of the mouths of King Macho Man Randy Savage and Lady McWraithpower. Give a girl a Lovecraftian ghost in her back pocket, and suddenly she's the most important person the previous game's lore never bothered mentioning. The story is focused around her and one of Destiny's discarded villain drafts, Azrak, Hell's answer to a high school theater kid who didn't get cast as Hamlet. He's deeply insecure that people fear Doomslayer more than him, so he wants a magic amulet to fix his self-esteem. My man, you're Hell. Your business model is infinite demons, zero drawbacks. What does a dimension-hopping apocalypse need a Halloween decoration for? This is going to worry the Catholic Church, but Hell isn't terrifying anymore. It's aggressively inconvenient. Just a demonic HOA Karen demanding, trimmed hedges or I sacrifice your dog. The game does come with a skip button, and you should use it like a Squarespace ad just invaded while playing. That skip cutscene option could also be applied to the game with its piss-easy difficulty. I was playing on hard and got halfway through the game before dying once. The devs outsource the difficulty to the options menu since telling it you want to play in hard isn't clear enough instructions. You're expected to mess with some sliders in menu to do the devs' work for them if you want an experience where demons are actual threats instead of your hype squad. But altering speed and damage values is never satisfying since that doesn't change the gameplay loop. Enemies have only 2 attacks. Stand there and die immediately when parried. The system is so forgiving it might qualify as a support group. Every enemy fires slow-moving green orbs of regret, but you can parry while filing your taxes on your second monitor. Positioning and timing doesn't matter. Spam the parry button at any green blob headed your way and it will be flung right back at the demon who shot it. This didn't exactly need to feature Dark Souls level of mastery, but there's zero stakes or risk to make it interesting. No unblockable attacks to force you to pay attention, no green orbs that get volleyed right back at you. Just parry then stick a shotgun in their face if they survive that. A power fantasy still requires struggle in order to feel powerful. Doom went from a power fantasy to a participation fantasy. You're not here to dominate, you're here to show up, nod, and collect your good effort buddy sticker. I enjoyed the game, but I can't rate it anything higher than a shrugging dude out of 10. The thing about the actual Dark Ages is that they never actually happened. It's an historical misunderstanding, and much like what this game is named after, Doom the Dark Ages should also have never happened, because Doom can't exist as an okay-ish game. It should either be exemplary, or not exist at all.
Another fool's errand, witch. You have wasted our time once again.
We will not leave here until the heart of Argent is found.
Demons shouldn't strategize. They should scream obscenities about your dead mom's soul and what they do to it regularly. The demons of hell and this Lovecraftian cultist feel more like aliens listening to Depeche Mode and going through a goth phase than supernatural beings of sin and madness. Thera, the only person of authority who keeps their shirt on in this civilization, begs the makers to send the Doomslayer down to save the settlement because this gravel pit staffed by a couple guys named Bjorn is a linchpin to the whole war effort. The tether the makers stuck in Doomslayer's chest to keep him obedient is as consequential as the terms of service agreement. Blink and you'll miss the only moment it matters. Doomslayer went from being a mute demigod who punched exposition out of his way to a glorified pay-to-win microtransaction in a battle royale. It takes a special kind of audacity to venerate Doom 2016's opening when this new soundtrack could be described as vaguely aggressive KitchenAid appliance. Mick Gordon could have made a better soundtrack even if instructed to play the guitar while wearing oven mitts. Doom soundtracks are the plot of the games. I don't care about your new Hellraiser-coded villain and his TED Talk on the meaning of suffering. I'm more interested in how the music syncs with the combat and the dopamine it spikes in me. The only thing that ever synced with a beat here was my disappointment. There isn't a single track in the game that evolves past ducka-ducka-daw, ducka-ducka-daw. I'm afraid to look up the names for any of the tracks, since I suspect half of them are titled Epic Gent. The shooting in Doom: The Dark Ages still feels as rewarding as stomping bubble wrap after work, but the game's weapon philosophy is like a fast food menu that offers fries and artisanal fries. Doom has always come with two flavors of shotgun, one that goes blam and another that goes blam blam, but you're expected to ignore the first shotgun once you receive the super shotgun. But now, every gun comes with two different versions you can switch between. I'm sorry, but two organ grinders that spit skull shrapnel out in different spread patterns isn't a necessity. Likewise with a rocket launcher and grenade launcher and two different plasma weapons that do the same thing. By mid-game, your super shotgun and chainsaw shield aren't just maxed out, they're overqualified. I could have listed them on LinkedIn as Senior Vice President of Orbital Face Removal and Creative Demon Relocation. For all the options they give you, I feel actively discouraged from switching weapons since you have to wait while Doomslayer carefully readies it like he's grabbing the fine china from the top shelf. I'm going to harp on parrying again, but don't worry, this time I'll be brief. What is it even doing here? Parrying as a mechanic is meant to keep you engaged in a fight even when the enemy is taking their turn to dish out some punishment. It keeps you from dodging and hiding behind chest-high walls. There are games it works in quite nicely, but Doom has never had an issue with keeping the player in combat before. That was a core strength of the series. You push forward no matter what without stopping. It had already solved the minor issue of scraping by with just a sliver of health and not enough to get through the remainder of the level by allowing you to pop enemies like pinatas stuffed full of health potions and armor pieces. And that's still in the game along with a parry. This might sound a bit strange, but Doomslayer just feels overpowered now. The maps seem to have all been designed around the local bumper car ride near Id's office, since they're all wide open spaces with little to no verticality. Compare that to Doom Eternal's dense playgrounds for children with guns. Level design has been simplified to bring Doom back to its roots, when it was a two-dimensional game where you weave between slow-moving sprite fireballs and flip switches to progress. Interestingly, verticality was non-existent in the old game since the engine didn't allow you to look up. Likewise, verticality is treated like a myth in the Dark Ages since the majority of the game you'll be sprinting across giant parking lot-sized arenas while demons shoot slow-moving projectiles at you and line up in phalanx formations. But what worked well in 2D doesn't hold up so well in a game where I can actually use the Y-axis. It gets old engaging with the same exact combat scenario. Run across the field, throw shield at other shielded enemies so their shields explode and mine doesn't because it's magic or something, then kill anyone big enough to count as a pressure enemy that was left standing. I can't recall a single fight that didn't go down this way. The only new ideas they had were special purple cheerleader enemies who buff all their friends in the vicinity, and another special enemy that's invincible until you kill every other enemy first to lower its morale. I never figured demons cared so much about their comrades that they would get depressed and lose their will to live. Instead of discovering anything organically, levels feel like exploring a strip mall with your phone's GPS. Run across the parking lot to one location and then to the next to find the 3 keys or switches you need to progress. Locked gates feel like an hallucination on Doomslayer's part, since there's no visible lock, just a hologram floating in front of the door to tell you which color you need. And security keycards are not just scattered somewhere in the level, but they have a huge gleaming Batman-style spotlight shining into the sky, so you know exactly where they are. The mechanic is so annoying that you have to project its image into the skybox. Maybe it's time to rethink the matter entirely instead of adding crutches. How does the shield dash work, by the way? Doomslayer is just rocketing toward the enemy with his shield up. What propels him so much faster? In previous games, humans treated Doomslayer like an escaped zoo animal who was on their side, but might rip their testicles off if they looked him in the eye. Here, Doomslayer could piss on their leg and they wouldn't react. Bethesda really nailed the vibe of a world where everyone's soul has been replaced by a Windows 95 screensaver. A turret section feels antithetical to Doom. It's like telling a tornado to calm down. I am supposed to be the turret when it comes to firepower. Making me stand in place and shoot doesn't even line up with this game's ethos of blocking and parrying.
The beast is tearing through our ranks once again. And still, you continue to be influenced by this outsider. It is not this witch who is forced onto the battlefield against the Slayer.
Apparently the demons of hell are concerned with casualty rates. Azrak is losing too many demons looking for the Heart of Argent. For my deep dive into the lore, Doomslayer has been slaughtering the forces of hell for ages and hasn't even made a noticeable dent in their numbers. Does hell have recruitment drives or something? Do they risk the demons going AWOL? How does this work?
We purify his mind and leave only his hatred for the demons.
Even Maker technology couldn't delete Doomslayer's Funko Pop addiction. Doom has never needed to give the player a break from the core gameplay by including vehicles and mounts. This game was so unsure of itself it gave you two different varieties. I preferred coming across the wreck of Atlans and Titans in previous games as a bit of world building to strapping into the cockpit of one to fight the other. Mechanically, it's as simple as a slap together Roblox server. Punch Titans to power up a finisher while occasionally dodging their slow motion attacks. At one point, King Jim TikTok influencer orders his men to give Doomslayer a gun. And now this giant robot is exactly like the on foot sections, just with zero weapon selection and a whole lot slower. They already established that a normal sized turret is enough to deal with tyrants. Why do I need a robot that fires bullets the size of a minivan now? There's no time limit to create additional pressure for the disposal of the energy barrier's core, even after you drop it when attacked by tyrants.
As you asked. Now please, let her soul be at peace.
I'm surprised Hell doesn't use the souls of the damned against the living people that love them more often if it's this effective. Do you think Deborah Wilson ever gets tired of playing this type of character? Outside of being cast as a white girl this time, she's still essentially every Deborah Wilson character of the last 8 years.
The Heart of Argent, discovered in AR-722, an artifact said to contain the soul of the last Wraith.
I seem to recall several Wraiths in Doom Eternal. They were a big part of the creation of Argent Energy. But whatever, I don't care enough about this lore to correct them that much. Dragon levels are about as enjoyable as licking the crease where the public toilet seat meets the tile. It makes me think a mobile game somehow found its way into Doom. I'd make a joke about how this is what your grandpa probably imagines Doom is like, but your grandpa likely played the original Doom and knows what the hell he's talking about. This is the product of people way more out of touch than the elderly. Bethesda employees. With the inclusion of Hell ships and tanks, Hell feels less like a supernatural force and more like the aliens from Halo started drawing pentagrams on their notebook. King Underdress gets one over on Azric by detonating charges that blow the vault out of the sky while he slips away with the Heart of Argent. Then he decides the safest place for the most dangerous bauble in existence is tucked snugly between his goddamn pecs for all to see. I choked on my steroid just picturing all of Hell coming for this thing and finding it around his neck as he poses for gym selfies. It's harder than you would think to be unsubtle in a Doom game, but somehow this managed to do just that. I enjoy the chain shot. It feels good, does great damage, doesn't have a second version, and was the only weapon I used outside of the super shotgun. But I just can't figure out how it runs out of ammo when it's a cannonball attached to a chain that reels it back in after every shot. The Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered just came out, but I nearly destroyed more Oblivion gates in this level than that entire game. In cutscenes, Doomslayer can just saw through locked doors instead of looking for the color-coded key. King Skyrim Guard is down, badly beaten by Azric for the location of the Heart of Argent, even though the thing is right there on his freaking bare chest. It's like robbing the free sample lady. Bro, just yoink it. This isn't Ocean's 11. The heart is empty, meaning generations of Night Sentinels have protected this thing without ever having made sure it actually contains something of value. And King Gaybear never bothered checking after tying it around his neck. Now instead of moving on to something even remotely more interesting, Azrak will have to locate the Wraith Soul by doing a whole lot of nothing and looking into it. My testosterone level drops when Doomslayer gets slapped around this easily in cutscenes. Doomslayer's one line in the game is a callback to a meme.
It can't be removed. We scanned it. It's wired to a detonator.
Deborah Wilson has been cursed to play as Amanda Waller in all her future roles. Sadly, she dragged Doomslayer into the Suicide Squad ripoff with her.
If he ever gets control of it, that much power in Hell's hands, none of us would survive.
We're dealing with the same Hell from previous Doom games, right? Hell seemed awfully powerful without the Heart of Argent. Azric can possess Lisser Makers in order to have a conversation with Creedmaker about an alliance. Other possible uses for this that he never thought of would be possessing one of the Makers and activating the bomb in Doomslayer's chest. As if the parry wasn't powerful enough, Thera leads Doomslayer into the woods to the ancestral forge of her people, where she can imbue it with Wraith power. I ended up picking and staying with the homing knives that shoot out whenever you parry an attack. You can probably beat this game without firing a shot once you have it fully upgraded. The Agadon Hunter is this game's version of Doom Eternal's Marauder. It's supposed to be this enemy that presents a fundamentally different challenge and ensures you mastered a particular skill that other enemies don't punish you much for. In Doom Eternal, it was weapon switching and positioning. Weapon switching doesn't exist in this game, so that's out the door. And spacing is supposed to be important just like with the Marauder, since at a distance it gains an energy barrier that makes it invulnerable, so you have to get right in its face and parry it. But that's my strategy for every pressure enemy in the game, so I don't know what this enemy is supposed to be skill checking me on. Thera's people scan the tether and learn that it's attached to a detonator and can't be removed, but they fail to realize it's also a body cam that allows Creedmaker to spy on them and learn that Thera has Wraith powers which he relays to Azric. Halfway through the game and Doomslayer finally arrives in Hell. I'm not sure why we're here though. Thera just upgraded our shield and told us to head out, and then the level ended. And the next one begins with Doomslayer walking out of a portal in hell, presumably to go after Azric.
The heart is found. Now give to me what is owed. Return our god to us.
The witch wants her god returned for helping Azric obtain the Heart of Argent, and she eventually gets what she wants, but not through anything Azric does. I don't think he did anything in this game but benefit from blind luck.
Alert. 2 hell cannons detected.
When I eventually arrive in hell, I expect a goal a bit more esoteric than destroying hell cannons. Apparently it's so they don't destroy a broken down Outland robot we need to repair. Those things are impervious to anything except Titan punches, yet 3 small cannons are enough of a threat that I have to take them out before I can get inside. This Outland was destroyed in an earlier assault on hell, where they just forgot to install a battery, since that is all we need to fix it. Once inside Azric's fortress, his hologram promises Doomslayer that their time will come. Then you're told by Thera that they're opening a portal back to Argent D'Nur and you're to return. What was the goddamn point of coming to hell? I didn't accomplish anything. This game is worse for your testosterone levels than all the microplastic in your testicles. Inside the Sentinel base, Doomslayer gets locked inside of a room while demons invade, but then a wall is blasted open and he's free. I would have preferred to remain stuck in the room, since this is another dragon level that plays out exactly as the previous one did. After destroying 3 tentacles that were just sort of massaging the base, a new tentacle comes through the portal and instantly gets a job done by grabbing the tower where Thera and Creedmaker are located and dragging them into the portal and shedding in the face of the Doomslayer. Since the Doomslayer is now responsible for rescuing a literal princess, the next level has him travel to an ancient forest where Cthulhu is imprisoned, since he'll need to ride it through a new portal to reach Thera. Lovecraftian horror was the domain of Quake, at least the first one, id's other big FPS game from the 90s. It was easier to make a Quake game inside Doom than just making a new Quake game, because the more I compare the two, the more similarities I find. Quake focused on gothic and dark age fantasy settings before Doom ever did. How about you make a new Quake instead of wasting our time with his glorified crossover? I don't know why the witch didn't come and free her god herself if it were as easy as Doomslayer makes it look. He just flies around and hits 3 switches that are unguarded. This place is already controlled by hell demons anyway. This portal has been open in the sky since we arrived here to free Cthulhu. Why couldn't we just flown through it without freeing him? This is an alternate realm of madness, yet it's filled with nothing but demons from hell. There's only 3 new enemies that seem to come from this Lovecraftian realm. One of them just being a replacement for the Cacodemons, another is simply a borrowed enemy from Quake, and then there's a third one, but it's so similar to a Reaver that it's hard to distinguish between them at times. Cthulhu does the one thing that all giant monsters always regret, swallows the armed super soldier whole. Learn to chew your food and you avoid him ripping his way out. Why are there hell demons just hanging out inside Cthulhu's body? And why are there glowing green switches inside him that turn off tentacles protecting one of his major organs? You know, this isn't the first time an id game has had you go inside the body of an old god. That's how you kill Shub-Niggurath in Quake 1. The thing about Cthulhu and Monsters Out of Time is that they're supposed to drive you mad simply by seeing them. Hell, on the other hand, is full of monsters that we can wrap our heads around since they're derived from human sin. So Cthulhu should be something completely alien and be a very different kind of threat. But Cthulhu is just another big monster. There's nothing special about him besides tentacles. This old god was less of a threat than the icon of sin. And I'm talking about the one that contained John Romero's head.
Her energy is too powerful. Even for you.
When you spend 3 games making Doomslayer out to be this unstoppable force of rage and willpower, you write yourself into a corner, because now anything that can easily stop him devalues all the work you put into establishing him as a power fantasy. Doomslayer is looking a lot more like Guts from Berserk than Scarface on growth hormone these days, and given that this scene has a demon doing something terrible to a helpless woman while he's powerless to stop it, well, let's just say I'm thankful Doom has completely lost its edge, so this ceremony to transfer a god from one person to another is PG-13. Just some flashy lights and it's done. Azric takes the power of the Wraith from Thera, then takes Doomslayer's helmet and tosses at the feet of King Midlife Crisis in an intimidation tactic. Meanwhile, Doomslayer is being held captive in a force field by 3 Cthulhus? Cthulhi? I'm not sure how this is done plurally, but multiple Cthulhu makes a freeing of that one earlier sort of pointless if they had multiple old gods. They had enough of them to form a band. Doomslayer rips the Maker tether out of his chest, which causes it to explode, killing the Cthulhus and knocking Doomslayer into the sea of acid surrounding him. But the opening narration of Doom 2016 kicks in, even though it's something King Dadbod wouldn't have said yet, since he doesn't trust Doomslayer enough with his own freedom and enslaved him to the Makers. Doomslayer awakens in the underworld as an undead zombie, and thankfully all of his weapons are right there with him. Represented by the super shotgun, of course, because that's the only one he needed. Somehow having made the journey to the underworld with him and allowing him to fight his way out. His suit AI is even still with him, and informs him of a beacon from the mortal plane. A GPS is all it takes to get out of hell after death. The demons of hell can invade entire planets, yet they need siege towers to get over some stone walls even though they have portal technology and flying ships. If you wanted to add a touch of bullet hell shooter to Doom, the dragon riding sections would have been the perfect option, instead of the fight against Creedmaker. I don't really know what specifically the Wraith power allows Azric to do. He's just standing at the helm of his skull ship while all the demons do the attacking. That was something he could already do. Lovecraft should have been way more strict on other people using his copyright, because it's led to things like Cyber Cthulhu being punched to death by a giant robot. Demons in Persona games are more metal than this, and half of those are shaped like genitals. Doomslayer gets stabbed, but then his dragon comes in to save him and gets killed in the process, and the game wants me to pretend as if I like the damn thing just as much as Doomslayer apparently did. I'm glad it died, since it means no more mounted combat levels. The bunny he lost back on Earth was more sentimental. Doomslayer rips the heart out of Azric and the Wraith returns to Thera, destroying Azric's ship, but allowing him to teleport back to Hell. Because this game doesn't want to be over yet, despite having already fought the big bad at the height of his power. So now Thera leads an invasion of Hell to do... what exactly? Kill Azric? Why couldn't we have done that sooner? And killing him doesn't even accomplish anything. Azric is taking off in his ship to escape. I really dislike this version of Hell where the demons are just Halo enemies.
I command the Horde. Kill me, and this war will never end.
So the options are allow you to live and keep fighting an endless war against Hell, or kill you and continue fighting an endless war against Hell, only now the enemy forces lack direction.
And you, young sentinel, your father tells me great things about you.
His father's lying then. Merrick did nothing but stand there during cutscenes. Just because later he becomes the icon of sin doesn't mean he has to be shown off here in the least interesting way. Why wasn't he the focus instead of Thera? Congratulations, Microsoft, you've done it again. You've ruined an excellent shooter. Doom now shares space with Halo, Gears of War, Perfect Dark, and Overwatch. I'm not including Call of Duty since that hasn't been impressive for 2 decades. Well, you made it to the end of the video. That tells me you didn't hit the dislike button yet, which means I can probably get away with asking you to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Maybe even hit the like button and vote for which of these 2 games you'd like to see Sin next down in the comments. Or even better, join my Patreon where you can watch exclusive classic and DLC Sin videos. Just check down below, all that stuff there along with my socials is all available to you. Speaking of patrons, special thanks to Verdictions, Emezare, Vanilla Pixel, Brainwayne, Chris, Solomon McGuire, Alexander Cortez, Roman Are You Sleeping, Nervous Nelly, Xavier Destalis, Notorious SKP, Max Headroom, DJ Nelson, Azenith the Succubus, Musical Pumpkin, Castlemania, Zenro, Michelle C., Yaroslav Golubev, Dennis O'Brien, Donald Talbot, Montezuma, Aaron Hines, Sky is Under, Eric Kisser, Shadow Wolf Gaming, Urpel Jaeger, Church Quiones, S. Venus, Mario Neto, Ben Hottie, Biohazard, Director Anarchy, and Charmsy.